Welcome to Jewish World Weekly on I-24 News. I'm Emily Francis. Every week, we focus on stories, issues, and personalities of Jewish interest here in Israel and throughout the diaspora, the global Jewish community. And as always, we start with our top 5 items in the Jewish world. Today, presented by Jody Natelovitz. Hi, Jody.
Thanks, Emily. Here are the top 5 items in the Jewish world this week. Australian lawmakers came together in a rare moment of unity to recite the Mourners' Kaddish in Parliament for the victims of the Bondi Beach attack, which claimed the lives of 15 people. The Kaddish, a prayer for the dead, was led by Jewish MP Mark Dreyfus. The Australian government also took decisive steps toward addressing the rise in hate crimes, passing new legislation that strengthens penalties for hate speech and extremism. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro revealed he was asked during the vice presidential vetting process by Kamala Harris whether he had ever been an agent of Israel. Shapiro says the question crossed a line, echoing a familiar and painful anti-Semitic trope. He has admitted in the past that he volunteered for the IDF when he was younger and has remained a staunch advocate for Israel, but has been critical of Benjamin Netanyahu. In Argentina, the chief Sephardic rabbi has reaffirmed a century-old ban on performing local Jewish conversions. The decision has sparked anger and debate across the community, with critics saying it marginalizes sincere converts and reflects a growing tension between tradition and modern Jewish life in the diaspora. Video footage emerged from a Miami nightclub showing far-right influences, including Nick Fuentes, singing along to a song that praised Hitler and making Nazi salutes. The video, which quickly went viral, shows a disturbing level of casual anti-Semitic behavior. The club has since apologized and fired the staff involved. And finally, a heartwarming story this week from the UK, where thousands of free falafel meals were handed out to people experiencing homelessness as part of Jugo Day. The event was organized in memory of David Leitner, a Holocaust survivor who lost much of his family in Auschwitz. Leitner started this tradition before his death and used to urge people to eat falafel on January 18th, the day he and around 66,000 others went on Auschwitz death marches in 1945. What started as a personal ritual to remember those who perished in the Holocaust has grown into a grassroots movement, with volunteers across the world joining in to share food, hope, and conversation. Those are the top 5 items in the Jewish world this week. Back to you, Emily.
International Holocaust Remembrance Day falls every year on January 27th. It's a solemn day that communities, leaders around the world commemorate the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. Joining us now with someone doing something about it is Alicia Jacoby, the founder of Our 6 Million Initiative. Thank you for being here. Unfortunately, under these circumstances, when we've said never again, little did we know never again would resonate that much more after, what has happened from October 7th and beyond.
It's very scary. I was in Chicago just 2 months ago, and there was an open tent with 2 women sitting about Palestine, and I asked them, what is it? They said genocide. I said, what does that mean? They said baby killing. I said, what do you mean? And then all of a sudden, this young woman put her finger almost in my face and said to me, you're a Zionist. Stop harassing these women. I mean, it's rampant.
Wow.
And it's everywhere.
So, with that said, clearly you've been very active, and this is, something that takes place. We know that Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel is at a different time, but it is so important for the world to remember. What are you finding as the generations continue? We're getting a dwindling number of survivors still alive, a huge percentage of the world thinking the Holocaust is a myth. In the UK, for example, not even talking about Holocaust Remembrance Day in the majority of the schools. What does this tell us?
We need to be careful, and we need to be innovative, and we need to find out new ways of passing the torch on from generation to generation. And there are so many different ways, but what worked in the past, going to a ceremony was great, and you had a survivor speaking. But moving forward, is that really enough? So I think we really need new initiatives, and we need a tradition from generation to generation. Otherwise, you forget.
Well, especially the young generation now, they could just say, well, that's AI. That's not a real survivor. I mean, even that would not even, before that would be enough. You'd have somebody come talk, and then you know, you're
or
a lying
even without
Zionist.
AI, they think it was the period of the dinosaurs.
Right, I know, crazy, right? So tell us about your organization, how it was founded and why it's so important, especially in these times.
So our 6 million was established about 14 years ago. And we have two goals. The first goal is to try to return the identity of the perished back to them that the Nazis tried to steal from them. They've kind of been grouped into 6 million, but does anybody really talk about Friedel Dicker Brandeis, for example, she was an educator and she was an artist, and she used art therapy in Theresienstadt, and she helped hundreds of children, about over 600, to deal with their situation. And by doing that and by drawing a flower on the window, instead of feeling like the kids were in Theresienstadt, they used their imagination to leave the camp. And it was very impactful. And most people don't know about Friedel Dicker Brandeis. And so I kind of adopted her in my way. And every year on Holocaust Remembrance Day, I light a candle in her memory.
So also, we see these candles here. So how does it work? You can put it down because we want the camera to see it. So how does it work? The idea is to have 6 million people lighting a candle with a particular name that we know of, or just to get as many people to light as many candles as possible?
Exactly. So the goal is, we have a partnership with Yad Vashem for the last 4 years. And the common goal is they just had an incredible, extraordinary achievement of getting the 5 millionth person's information.
Wow.
It's crazy. So, and it's all been researched and accurate. And so our common goal is for all 5 million names in their database to be lit around the world every Holocaust Remembrance Day by the Jewish nation, wherever you are. And now the candles are being lit, of course, in Israel, and that's the strongest, but in the United States, in Canada, in South America, South Africa, Australia. So it's something that's so easy to do at home that doesn't require much effort, but it's very meaningful.
Well, and for everybody to be doing something around the world at the same time.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
I mean, even if the time zones are different, it's you know, a wave. It becomes like a ripple.
Absolutely. And if you think about the people who perished, they probably thought they might have not even known if there were be any Jews left. And here, over 70 years later, we're remembering Friedel Dicker Brandeis individually.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here, and, you know, kol hakavod that you have remained so passionate. And it's just so important to not only never forget, but to also remember the names of those that have unfortunately been nameless for so long. Really appreciate your coming.
Thanks so much. Wishing you a meaningful International Holocaust Remembrance.
Thank you very much. And to all of you as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
The Israeli-American Council held their 10th annual summit this past weekend in Florida, bringing together prominent voices to discuss the present and the future of U.S.-Israeli relations. Here's more from I-24 News senior U.S. correspondent Mike Wagenheim, who was there.
Some 4,000 attendees here in Florida this weekend for the annual Israeli-American Council Summit. While the IAC was originally intended to represent Israeli Americans, it's grown to include a broader segment of the American Jewish community. And the IAC says one of its top priorities right now, well, keeping everybody in a good state of mind through troubling times.
This is a time where we have to be hopeful. We have to be excited about our future. And challenges? When has the Jewish people not confronted challenges? So yes, we have challenges today too, but we also have incredible opportunities. And so our message is, look, let's come together. Let's have a great time together. Let's remember that we are mishpacha, we are family. And then let's go forward with vigor and purpose and win. Beat every enemy who stands against us and capture the opportunities to build that better future for our children and grandchildren.
In addition to appearances by a number of big names, including Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Attorney General Pam Bondi, this year's summit included panel discussions and speakers representing a broad range of sectors, including almost an entire day devoted to science abroad and how to bring Israeli physicians and researchers who have left Israel back home.
Actually, the idea was to expose the myriad and the very wide kind of opportunities that exist in Israel in the healthcare in general, whether clinical, innovation, entrepreneurship, So we wanted to bring all those aspects. First of all, hospitals. How hospitals are bringing innovation into clinical care, daily clinical care. Secondly, startups. Just a glimpse, very few startups of the many that were developed based on either physicians' ideas or with physicians' engagement in the company itself. And then bring some, news of what the Israeli healthcare is bringing to the world.
The focus of another segment was on the United Nations and continued efforts to erase anti-Israel bias from the global body. A former ambassador from Israel to the UN says the U.S. has the right frame of mind in continuing to defund the UN.
So I believe the new doctrine that we are seeing, I call it the Trump doctrine, will lead, thank God, to the destruction of the UN, something that needs to happen after 80 years since it was founded, because it's a waste of money, $75 billion a year for nothing, Even on the contrary, the UN today is a weapon in the hands of dictators or terrorist supporters who use it to whitewash their crimes.
Well, besides the panelists and speakers, a number of outside organizations gathered here at this summit to try to connect with this important audience. That includes an organization called Idut, which has been collecting testimonies from the victims of October 7th.
What do your children know about October 7th? What do they know about what happened in Israel during this horrific day? What will your grandchildren know? What will your community know in a decade, in a century? We in Idut 710 collect the testimonies. We document the testimonies on video of those who were there. All the survivors, the warriors, the rescue teams, the medical teams, we all put it on YouTube in order to be accessible today and in the future for all of us.
Well, while the scars of October 7th are still very much felt here, IAC leadership says they have plenty of challenges to focus on down the road and the opportunities that come with them. Reporting from Hollywood, Florida, here at the Israeli-American Council Summit, Mike Wagenheim, I-24 News.
Our next guest is a rabbi and former NYPD officer who is rolling up his sleeves to protect and train others to defend the Jewish community from terror attacks. Please welcome Rabbi Gary Moskowitz, the founder and director of the Jewish National Guard, joining us from the U.S. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me again.
So explain your rabbi, NYPD, they don't usually go together in the same sentence. How did you find this unique niche throughout your life's journey?
It was a long time ago. I'm also a sensei as well. I was teaching martial arts for many years in the Jewish community, going back, way back. And I saw an ad for to become a police officer. So I took the test, and there's only one other Orthodox police officer at the time who just came in the year before. But they tried to stop me from coming in. They actually accused me of being an Israeli agent working for the Mossad. I was shocked that they actually said that. But that's another story altogether. But I finally got into the police. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just laughed. I chuckled.
Yeah, so did I, actually. That was the police intelligence. I said, that's an oxymoron then. But at the time, I finally got in. I started working in Midtown North and Times Square area in the 1980s. And then I worked in different units. I worked as an undercover cop in Manhattan South Narcotics. I was on patrol for years. I worked with youth gangs. I did a lot of different things, even a stint with the FBI Terrorist Task Force. And between the two, they did a lot of stories because I used to sing a Jewish cop outside Israel.
Wow. So, that said, clearly you were able to do, quite a lot. And, I imagine now being a Jewish cop, maybe not going over so well and with what has been going on in New York. So tell us how you've taken those skills and to, move it forward, to help, Jewish communities and whatnot be able to properly protect themselves.
Certainly. We formed the group called the Jewish National Guard. It's on the Mitzvah USA, a nonprofit organization here set up to protect our communities. We offer free classes and training. Many Jewish people here don't have the access or the right to carry a gun here, so we teach them how to use other methods. Like in martial arts, many they learned how to use other things that are around them. I train people to use high-power lights, like 10,000 lumens would totally blind people. When I was a cop, I carried high power lights and I carried weights. They have more stopping power than actually bullets do. We've trained people in intelligence gathering. So one of the most important things that we like to do is we like to make house schools. I'm not going to wait for people to come and want to hurt us and kill us. I want to go after them proactively. So we train people with laptops, computers to go through social media, public records here, to try to track down people who want to hurt us and try to work with law enforcement to stop them or work with the media when we can. So this is a very important tool here. So we have a rapid response team that we've developed through training. We've had training and investigations, like I just said, but also we want to also start lawsuits. I have a law background as well. And what we want to do is we want to sue people civilly who threaten us. For instance, every time people make threats against the Jewish community, what happens is these are considered aggravated harassment. There are crimes, actually, when you do it through the media. And often there are criminal charges as well. But the governments here, for some reason, do not want to do it politically to prosecute many of these people who are threatening Jewish lives. So we want to throw civil suits at them. When they have to start paying $100 a week, for the next 30 years, they may think differently.
Right.
Right.
So, with everything that has happened in the past year, especially like the encampments at Columbia, I mean, it really has grown like a wildfire. So how do you get to enough people when you've got, synagogues being affected, Jewish schools? I mean, this is just Manhattan alone. And we clearly, with Mamdani as mayor, there's even more of a concern. So how do you get, more people, suited up to be able to help in this mission?
Great question, and that's one of the questions I had for many, many years. Unfortunately, in the Jewish community, we have a lot of, outside Israel, of course. I love going to Israel because years ago I was training the Yomam, even the anti-terror unit of the border police. It was great to be around those type of people. Here in this country here, in many of the communities around the country here, Jews are pretty timid, frail. They're afraid to get involved with this. Not everybody, but for the most part. So what I did, I made an arrangement with Bishop Gerald Seabrook. We have something called the Black Jewish Alliance, part of the United Clergy Coalition, which I'm a part of. I'm the only Jewish member there. It's mostly made up of Black congregations, and they want to work with us. So I've reached out to the Black community, our Black brothers, and we're training them right now in their church. They gave us 5,000 square feet to use to open up. We're trying to open up the first Jewish police academy outside Israel. You see, the way to train people, I'm only one person. I know about 10 people like myself who can train people, but that's nothing compared to what we have to do here and also in Europe. I spent time, I was in Vienna, I was in France, I was in Spain doing training seminars, and I can tell you right now, they also are in serious problems as well. I'm also trying to train many of the rabbis in the community and try to teach them that it's okay. You can study Torah, you can learn, but you have an obligation to protect the Jewish community as well. We say in the Shematem Od Nafshotechem, there's a positive mitzvah to protect yourselves, and they seem to be lacking in this mitzvah. We have to teach people not to be cowardice.
Wow, very, very, well said. And clearly, I mean, to get these skills will help, overcome whatever anxieties of not knowing what to do in those situations. So even to be armed with some kind of knowledge clearly is a relief, I would imagine. So thank you so much. The U.S. is planning a bold strategy offering asylum to British Jews following the rise of anti-Semitism in the country. But are things really that bad for the British Jewish community? And what is the reasoning behind it? Our Joe Brown filed this report.
Robert Garson, a personal lawyer of President Donald Trump, came up with the idea of giving asylum for British Jews to the United States who are feeling unsafe in the United Kingdom. This surprisingly went down quite well with the Trump administration, according to Garson, who have quite a strong anti-asylum stance. But the question is, are British Jews safer in the United Kingdom or the United States? Let's take a look at some of the numbers. 35% of Jews say that they feel unsafe in the United Kingdom, according to the Institute for Jewish Policy Research. Now, there's no direct poll in the United States for comparison, but an AJC poll from 2024 said that 27% of Jews do not feel safe in Jewish institutions, and according to the Anti-Defamation League, more than half have felt unsafe due to their identity. An interesting fact about the background of Robert Garson is that he is actually British himself. He was born in Manchester, which was, of course, the scene of a horrific terror attack last year at a Yom Kippur service in which 2 Jewish worshippers were killed in a synagogue. And he says that this is one of the main reasons behind this drive. But these attacks aren't specific to the United Kingdom. Last year alone, there were 2 deadly terror attacks in the United States, one in Washington, D.C. and one in Boulder, Colorado, which claimed the lives of 3 people. And this isn't even mentioning the fact that in the United States, the homicide rate is 6 times greater than it is in the UK, predominantly because of the lax gun control laws in America. What this reminds me of is something that Ugandan dictator Idi Amin did in 1973. He created a Save Britain Fund, which was done sarcastically as a reverse of the British fundraisers for Africa, as the UK was in the middle of a deep recession. He ordered the Ugandan citizens to give money to help their former colonial powers to get out of the dire situation that they were in. And there's definite comparisons to be drawn between that plan and this asylum plan. Donald Trump and Keir Starmer have had their very public battles in the last couple of weeks, and this can be an attempt to embarrass Keir Starmer and to pile on to his misery. Now, don't get me wrong, many British Jews do feel unsafe in the country, and some British Jews do feel safe. Both of those opinions are valid and should be respected. But listen, if you're going to claim asylum to another country, maybe don't do it to a country which has arguably an even worse problem with anti-Semitism.
Despite an ongoing internet blackout by the Iranian regime, civil unrest in the country continues to make headlines, with conflicting numbers of protesters killed by the security forces. And for the few remaining Jews in Iran, their lips are sealed, not necessarily by choice. Joining us now from Washington is Yonatan Sayeh, an Iranian-born Jew and a research analyst in Iran studies for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, it's great to be with you.
So tell us, first of all, about your own family history in Iran. You actually did live there until you were a teenager.
I definitely did. So I grew up in Tehran, and I was actually active during the 2009 protest wave that occurred primarily in Tehran. And I moved to America shortly after that. And I can tell you, even though there is great systemic oppression of all religious minorities, including Jews in particular, by the Islamic Republic, ultimately civil society and Iranian culture is very accepting of different faiths and different ethnicities. So anti-Semitism really stems from the regime itself and the regime-controlled apparatus as opposed to the society itself.
Well, yeah, and given, I mean, so many thousands of years of shared history, I mean, the Purim story, King Cyrus goes back, to, ancient Iran. So that said, I mean, do you feel that there is a bit of a kinship between, Persians who are not Jewish in that country as well?
Absolutely. So Iran probably has the most pro-Israel and pro-America population currently in the Middle East. Without a doubt, they see Israelis and American forces, but specifically given the 12-day war and given how Israel was able to decapitate Iranian leadership, the average Iranian on the ground sees Israel as an ally, and they really look at this shared threat of the Islamic Republic, something they can work on together. Because ultimately, the atrocities committed during October 7th by Hamas are effectively sponsored by the same people that are doing the same atrocity against the Iranian people right now. So again, it's about shared grievances, shared history, and having a vision for the future as like how the two countries can have a prosperous relationship.
As of now, there's only about 8,000 Jewish people still in Iran. Any of them your family still, or everybody moved to the States?
I still do have family. The numbers, again, have really declined post-1979, but ultimately there's still a population. But that said, of course, they cannot really have any political opinions, or they cannot advocate it. Oftentimes they're really used as a bargaining chip, or oftentimes used as some sort of a tool that the regime can coerce into propagating pro-regime narratives because they fear their lives so much. So again, whatever you see on Iranian state TV talking about how the Jews are pro the Islamic Revolution and whatnot, ultimately comes down to how they fear their lives. This is how my family was treated at the time too. So it's really, you go and contribute to the propaganda, or your life is at risk. There's no in between as a Jew.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your insight, and I'm sure we will have more developments in the news cycle, coming in the next weeks and months. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for this week's episode of Jewish World Weekly. You can head over to our I-24 News YouTube channel or website, of course, our social media platforms to catch up on this, as well as previous episodes and interviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Emily Francis, and shalom from Tel Aviv.